Junior observer Techley adjusted his sensory tendrils over the monitoring station's crystal interface, fighting back a yawn after 12 hours of routine scans. The Galactic Council's observation post hung silently in the void between stars, its crystalline spires reflecting the distant light of the Milky Way's spiral arm. Another shift of watching developing worlds, another day of cataloging mundane biological patterns. The quantum screens before him displayed streams of data from thousands of species on hundreds of worlds. Heart rates, brain patterns, and cellular activities flowed past in an endless river of information. Techley had learned to tune out the constant flow, intervening only when the system flagged significant anomalies. A soft chime broke his monotony. His primary screen highlighted a data stream from a blue-green planet the natives called Earth. Techley straightened his posture, 4 eyes focusing on the peculiar readings. The numbers couldn't be right. He ran a diagnostic on his equipment, but the results remained the same. System, Techley spoke into the interface, his voice carrying a slight tremor. Verify biological readings from observation point 7249, subject group, human. The crystalline console pulsed with soft blue light. Readings verified. Multiple subjects displaying voluntary control over autonomous biological functions. Cardiac rhythm manipulation detected. Pattern suggests conscious control rather than environmental or pathological factors. Techley's secondary heart skipped a beat. In 15 years of observation, he had never seen anything like this. Every spacefaring race in the Council's database maintained consistent autonomous functions. Heart rates, breathing patterns, neural oscillations, all operating beyond conscious control. It was a fundamental constant of evolved life. But these humans were different. He accessed the visual feeds, bringing up real-time observations of human population centers. In a structure labeled Meditation Center, a group of humans sat in ordered rows, their vital signs synchronized in impossible patterns. Their heart rates rose and fell in perfect unison, as if controlled by some external mechanism. Senior researcher Vexena to Observation Deck, Priority 1, Techley called into the station's communication array, his voice steady despite his growing unease. Anomalous biological readings detected. While waiting for his superior, Techley dove deeper into the data. The humans weren't just controlling their hearts, they were altering their brainwaves, body temperature, and even their immune responses. The level of conscious control they exhibited over supposedly automatic functions defied everything he knew about biological evolution. Vexena arrived minutes later, her silvered scales reflecting the console's glow as she glided across the observation deck. Report, Junior Observer. Senior Researcher, I've detected widespread biological anomalies in the human population. Techley began, bringing up multiple data streams. They appear to have developed some form of conscious control over their autonomous systems. Initially, I thought it might be an equipment malfunction, but Vexena's outer membrane shifted from its usual calm blue to a disturbed purple as she analyzed the readings. This is unprecedented. Are you suggesting these beings can simply decide to stop their hearts? The data suggests exactly that, Senior Researcher. And it's not isolated. I'm detecting similar patterns across their global population. They appear to be teaching these techniques to others. The Senior Researcher's membrane darkened further. A species-wide capability to voluntarily terminate vital functions. The implications are troubling. She straightened to her full height, her decision made. Initiate Emergency Protocol 7 Alpha. This requires immediate council attention. As Vexena turned to leave, she paused. Excellent work, Junior Observer. Though I fear you may have discovered something that will disturb the Council deeply. A species that evolves the ability to terminate itself at will. One must wonder what drove them to develop such a trait. Techley watched her leave, then turned back to his monitors. On the screens, humans continued their daily activities, unaware that their unique abilities had just placed them at the center of what would become a galactic crisis. In meditation centers, monasteries, and scientific institutions across Earth, People practiced their breathing exercises and heart rate control, never imagining that these peaceful practices would be interpreted as signs of something far more sinister. The observation post alert status shifted to emergency level, its crystalline spires now pulsing with warning lights that reflected off the stellar debris surrounding the station. Techley settled in for what would undoubtedly be a very long shift, knowing that his discovery would echo through the council chambers for years to come. The Grand Archive of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 artificial moons, its vast chambers holding the accumulated knowledge of 10,000 civilizations. In the Xenobiology wing, senior researcher Vexna stood before the High Council's Science Committee, her scales shifting between shades of worry purple and anxious green. Distinguished council members, she began, her voice echoing through the crystalline chamber. The data from Earth presents capabilities that defy our understanding of evolutionary development. These humans not only possess conscious control over their autonomous systems, but actively teach these abilities to others. First Speaker Zixtol leaned forward, his ceremonial robes catching the light from the archive's bioluminescent ceiling. Explain the implications, senior researcher. Why does this capability warrant an emergency session? Vexna gestured to the holographic display, where human biological readings danced in complex patterns. In every known species, the development of conscious control over autonomous functions serves a singular purpose: defense against predation or hostile takeover. The Rixin developed toxic secretions, the Volari created electromagnetic pulses, but nothing compares to this. The chamber filled with murmurs as council members processed her words. Security Chief Kralthax, his battle-scarred exoskeleton gleaming under the archive's lights, stepped forward. You're suggesting these humans evolved a biological self-destruct mechanism. The evidence supports this conclusion, Vexna replied, bringing up new data streams. Their historical records show centuries of conflict, technological advancement, accelerated by warfare. What better defense than the ability to deny an enemy final victory? They can simply choose to stop living. Archive Master Pelthos, oldest among those present, activated his speaking crystal. We have observed species with self-termination capabilities before. The hive minds of Sector 7, the crystal beings of the Outer Rim, all extinct now. Those species required external triggers or specific environmental conditions, Vexna countered. Humans can initiate this response at will, individually or in groups. They gather in special chambers they call meditation centers to practice these techniques together. The holographic display shifted to show humans in various positions, their vital signs synchronized in what the council interpreted as preparation for mass activation of their ability. Children learning these techniques in schools particularly disturbed the observers. They're training their young, Security Chief Kralthax noted, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Implementing this capability into their basic education. First Speaker Zixtol raised a limb for silence. The implications are clear. Any species that evolves such an extreme defense mechanism must have faced existential threats throughout their development. Their psychology would be shaped by constant warfare, their culture built around the ultimate denial of defeat. Vexna's scales rippled with agreement. Their space exploration efforts have accelerated rapidly in the past century. They've already established a presence on their 4th planet. Their drive to expand, combined with this biological capability, could destabilize the entire sector, Kralthax finished. Imagine diplomatic negotiations with a species that could terminate themselves rather than accept unfavorable terms. They could hold entire worlds hostage. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Archive Master Pelthos spoke again, his ancient voice carrying the weight of millennia. In all our records, we have never encountered a species that evolved such absolute control over their life functions. The psychological profile this suggests is troubling. First Speaker Zixtol rose to his full height. We cannot ignore this development. Senior researcher Vexna, you will establish a dedicated task force. Study everything: their history, their biology, their social structures. We must understand the full extent of this capability before they advance further into space. As the session concluded, Vexana remained in the archive, reviewing the data streams. On her screens, humans continued their daily routines, practicing their breathing exercises, teaching meditation to their children, completely unaware that their peaceful practices were being interpreted as preparation for the ultimate act of defiance. In the depths of the archive, ancient warning systems activated for the first time in centuries, marking humanity as a potential threat to galactic stability. The wheels of bureaucracy began to turn, setting in motion events that would either lead to understanding or conflict, and no one could predict which path the future would take. The quantum drive core of the Council flagship Eternal Vigilance hummed to life, its crystalline matrix casting prismatic shadows across the vessel's command deck. Fleet Commander Rickstoll watched as 500 ships of the containment fleet emerged from fold space, their hulls gleaming under the light of Earth's distant sun. Stealth systems at full capacity, reported Navigation Officer Zenva, her tentacles dancing across the control interface. The humans' primitive detection systems register only standard background radiation. They remain unaware of our presence. Rick still nodded, all four of his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing Earth's rapidly advancing space program. Their quantum sensors revealed a flurry of activity around the human Mars colony, where construction crews worked to expand the settlement's environmental domes. Report from Surface Observation Team 7. Communications Officer Yixtel announced that humans have successfully tested their first antimatter containment chamber. Development is proceeding faster than projected. In the strategy room adjacent to the command deck, Security Chief Kralthax studied the latest intelligence briefings. Their technological progression is concerning, he noted, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. From primitive chemical rockets to antimatter research in less than a century. Such rapid advancement suggests preparation for expansion. A junior analyst approached with fresh data streams. Sir, we detected increased activity in their meditation centers. The number of humans practicing their biological control techniques has increased by 30% in the past solar cycle. The security chief's exoskeleton bristled. They're preparing their population, training more of their people in their terminal defense capabilities. He turned to the assembled staff. Update threat assessment protocols. We must be ready if they attempt to use their ability as a bargaining tool. Meanwhile, on the far side of Earth's moon, cloaked observation pods monitored every transmission, every launch, every significant technological development. Inside one of these pods, Junior Observer Techley, recently promoted after his initial discovery, watched the humans with growing fascination. They're implementing these techniques in their space program, he reported to senior researcher Vexana via quantum link. Their Mars colonists use controlled breathing and heart rate manipulation to better adapt to the low-pressure environment. Vexana's image flickered in the communication crystal, weaponizing their ability for space exploration. Ingenious and troubling. Have you noted any other applications? Yes, senior researcher. Their military forces practice similar techniques. They call it stress management and performance enhancement. Techley's report carried notes of concern. Though I've observed something peculiar, they seem to use these abilities most often in non-combat situations. Before Vexana could respond, a priority alert flashed across all council channels. At a research facility in Nevada, humans had just achieved their first successful quantum entanglement experiment, decades ahead of projected timelines. On the Eternal Vigilance, Fleet Commander Rickstoll called an emergency briefing. The ship's senior staff gathered in the neural interface chamber, their consciousness merging with the ship's tactical displays. The humans are approaching a critical technological threshold, Rickstoll announced. Their mastery of quantum mechanics, combined with their biological fail-safe mechanism, presents an unprecedented scenario. We must accelerate our preparation timeline. Security Chief Kralthax's consciousness pulsed with agreement through the neural network. The Council's containment protocols are clear. Once a species demonstrates both the ability and potential inclination for mass self-termination, alongside rapid technological advancement, preemptive action becomes necessary. As the command staff debated their options, Earth continued its march toward the stars. In Houston, Cape Canaveral, Baikonur, and other space centers across the planet, humans pushed the boundaries of their understanding. Their meditation centers filled with practitioners seeking peace and self-mastery, their laboratories hummed with the promise of new discoveries, and their Mars colony grew under the red planet's sky. The Council fleet hung in the darkness like a sword of Damocles, invisible but poised. Their mission was clear: protect galactic stability at all costs. Yet none of them could predict how their misconceptions about humanity's abilities would soon reshape the very nature of that stability. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation window of the International Space Station's new diplomatic module, her heart steady despite the historic moment unfolding before her. Outside, the Council's diplomatic vessel emerged from its cloaking field, its crystalline structure catching Earth's light in prismatic cascades. Remarkable control, Dr. Chen, noted Ambassador Maria Torres, checking the biometric display. Your heart rate hasn't fluctuated since they appeared. 20 years of meditation practice, Sarah replied, maintaining her calm breathing pattern. Though I admit, this is the first time I've used it while meeting aliens. The Council's delegation proceeded through the airlock, their environmental suits adjusting to Earth's standard atmosphere. First, Speaker Zixtal led the group, his ceremonial robes flowing in the station's artificial gravity. Behind him, Security Chief Kralthax's sensors swept the chamber, while senior researcher Vexna's scales shifted through shades of analytical blue. Welcome to humanity's home. Ambassador Torres stepped forward, hands open in the universal gesture of peace. We are honored by the Council's decision to initiate contact. The alien's universal translators processed her words, but Zixtal's attention focused on Dr. Chen. His sensor suite detected her impossibly controlled vital signs, confirming the Council's fears about humanity's capabilities. The honor is ours, Zixtal responded smoothly. We have observed your species' remarkable progress with great interest. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her role as Earth's leading biofeedback researcher making her crucial to this meeting. We're particularly excited to share our medical and consciousness research. Our techniques for physiological control have applications across numerous fields. Kralthak's exoskeleton bristled imperceptibly. In the Council's interpretation, she had just openly acknowledged humanity's terminal defense mechanism. The security chief exchanged subtle signals with his hidden strike team, maintaining combat readiness despite the diplomatic setting. Perhaps a demonstration, Vexna suggested, her scientific curiosity warring with apprehension. We are particularly interested in your species' unique biological capabilities. Sarah smiled, unaware of the tension her next actions would create. Of course, with your permission, I'll demonstrate some basic biofeedback techniques. She sat cross-legged on the floor, assuming a meditation pose that made Kralthak's combat reflexes surge. The human visitors watched in confusion as the alien delegation subtly shifted positions, spreading out in what they didn't realize was a defensive formation. Dr. Chen closed her eyes and activated the station's biometric display. Watch the monitors, she explained. I'll begin by controlling my heart rate, then demonstrate temperature regulation and brainwave pattern shifts. The aliens observed with a mixture of fascination and horror as Sarah consciously adjusted her vital signs. To the Council members, it looked like she was demonstrating precise control over her species' self-termination capability. Remarkable precision, Vexna noted, her scales now a complex pattern of scientific interest and deep concern. How many of your people possess this level of control? Our techniques can be taught to anyone, Sarah replied enthusiastically. We've had great success teaching children, actually. Their developing minds adapt quickly to the practice. Zixtal managed to maintain his diplomatic composure, though the implications of her statement, that humans were training their young in these abilities sent ripples of alarm through the delegation's private communication channel. Junior Observer Techley, monitoring from the council ship, noticed something odd. Senior researcher, he transmitted to Vexna, I'm detecting elevated endorphin levels and positive emotional indicators in the human subjects during these demonstrations. This seems inconsistent with preparing for terminal defense protocols. The observation came too late to influence the meeting's tone. As Dr. Chen continued sharing humanity's achievements in consciousness research, the Council delegation's hidden strike fleet maintained combat readiness, their weapons locked on every major population center. In this moment of first contact, humanity extended its hand in friendship, eager to share its knowledge of mind-body harmony. The Council representatives accepted that hand with grave courtesy, believing they were watching a species demonstrate its willingness for mutual assured destruction. Two perspectives, light years apart in understanding, trying to bridge a gap neither yet realized existed. In the crystalline halls of the Galactic University on Centauri Prime, young Enksetli sat cross-legged, eyes closed, following the recorded instructions of Dr. Sarah Chen. The Centaurian student's bioluminescent patches pulsed in rhythm with her controlled breathing, a sight that would have terrified the Council's security division. Remarkable progress, Professor Lynn Waters noted, monitoring Enksetli's vital signs. As Earth's first exchange instructor at the Galactic University, she had expected resistance to human meditation techniques. Instead, she found endless curiosity. It feels peaceful, Enksetli said, her translator struggling to convey the sensation. I never knew we could have such control over our own bodies. Through the classroom's quantum observation feeds, Security Chief Kralthax watched with mounting alarm. His mandibles clicked rapidly as he composed an emergency report to the Council. The humans have begun actively transmitting their biological control techniques to other species. Success rate, concerning. Spread rate, exponential. Across the galaxy, similar scenes unfolded. On the trading world of Nexus 7, a human yoga instructor taught breathing exercises to a mixed class of 12 species. In the medical laboratories of the Regil Research Station, human biofeedback techniques revolutionized treatment protocols for stress-related disorders. Senior researcher Vexna's latest report to the Council painted a disturbing picture. The humans' influence spreads faster than our containment protocols can adapt. Their techniques have been documented in over 300 major population centers across 57 worlds. In her private laboratory on the Council homeworld, Vexna studied the latest data streams. Her scales shifted through shades of puzzlement as she observed the effects of human meditation practices on various species. The results contradicted every established theory about biological defense mechanisms. They're teaching our children their ways, First Speaker Zixtal noted during an emergency session, his voice heavy with concern. My own daughter now practices these human techniques daily. She claims it helps her focus during quantum mathematics lessons. The Council chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. Security Chief Kralthax stepped forward, his battle-scarred exoskeleton reflecting the chamber's lights. The humans have weaponized peace itself. By presenting their terminal defense capability as a tool for self-improvement, they've bypassed all our security protocols. Meanwhile, at the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime, Dr. Chen conducted her weekly public session. The embassy's garden dome filled with beings of all species, following her gentle guidance through meditation exercises. Among them sat Junior Observer Techley, officially present to monitor potential threats, but privately fascinated by the calm spreading through his usually racing mind. Notice your thoughts. Sarah's voice carried through the garden. Observe your body's rhythms. This connection between mind and physiology is your birthright, regardless of your species. The session's biometric data streamed directly to Council Security Headquarters, where analysts interpreted the synchronized vital signs of multiple species as evidence of humanity's growing control over galactic civilization. Emergency response teams were placed on high alert, even as more Council citizens enrolled in human mindfulness classes. Professor Waters, reviewing the latest enrollment figures for meditation courses at the Galactic University, smiled at the irony. We spent centuries trying to reach the stars, only to find our greatest contribution to galactic society might be teaching people how to sit quietly and breathe. She couldn't know that her casual observation had been intercepted by Council monitoring systems, where it was flagged as potential confirmation of a long-term human strategy for galactic influence. In the diplomatic quarter of the Council homeworld, Ambassador Torres received another worried inquiry about human meditation centers operating in Council space. As she composed her response, assuring them once again that these were purely peaceful installations, her office's quantum sensors detected 3 more Council warships entering the system. The Misunderstanding had taken on a life of its own. Human techniques for inner peace were spreading across the galaxy, while the Council's fear of these same techniques pushed them closer to a confrontation that neither side truly wanted. As meditation cushions were arranged in classrooms throughout Council space, weapons systems powered up in hidden bases, both sides unaware they were racing toward a crisis point. Security Chief Kralthax stood before the Emergency Security Council, his exoskeleton radiating tension as the holographic displays showed thousands of meditation centers across Council space pulsing with synchronized activity. The Council chamber's emergency lights cast ominous shadows across worried faces. "We can no longer delay action," he declared, mandibles clicking with urgency. Synchronized meditation sessions now involve over 30% of the galaxy's population. If the humans activate their terminal defense protocol, the resulting cascade could destabilize entire sectors. First, Speaker Zixtel studied the data streams with all 4 eyes, his usual diplomatic composure strained. "My own child attended one of these sessions yesterday. She claims it helped her achieve perfect scores on her quantum physics examinations." "That's exactly their strategy," Kralthax insisted. "They've made their weapons so attractive, so beneficial, that we've invited it into our schools, our homes, our most sensitive institutions. The humans call it mindfulness, but look at these activity patterns." The display shifted to show brain-wave synchronization across species boundaries. In meditation centers throughout Council space, beings of all races sat together, their vital signs harmonizing in what security interpreted as preparation for a massive coordinated event. Meanwhile, in her private laboratory, senior researcher Vexna received urgent messages from her research team. "Honored Council," she interrupted, her scales shifting to alarmed crimson. "We detected something unprecedented. The human techniques are causing permanent changes in practitioners' neural pathways." The chamber erupted in concerned whispers. Junior Observer Techley, recently promoted to the Council's Scientific Advisory Board, studied the data with growing fascination. "But senior researcher," he ventured, "these changes appear to be enhancing cognitive function and emotional stability across all affected species." "Which makes the weapon even more insidious," Kralthax countered. "They're rewriting the fundamental nature of Council citizens. This goes beyond mere biological control. They're reshaping the galaxy's consciousness itself." On Earth, completely unaware of the crisis, Dr. Sarah Chen led a groundbreaking session connecting meditation practitioners across human space. The Mars colonists joined in, finding the techniques particularly helpful for stress management in their challenging environment. Ambassador Torres, attending a diplomatic function on the Council homeworld, noticed the increased security presence but attributed it to standard procedures. She smiled as she passed a park where beings of various species practiced Tai Chi under the twin suns. The Council's hidden fleet moved into final attack positions. Weapon systems powered up, targeting arrays locked onto key human installations. In the flagship's command center, Fleet Commander Rixdal received the preliminary strike authorization with grave concern. "The operation parameters are clear," Kralthax addressed the Council. "We must act before they achieve complete neural synchronization across the galactic population. Our analysts project we have less than 48 hours before the point of no return." Techley's voice shook as he raised an objection. Honored Council, I must point out anomalies in our interpretation. The human's biological control techniques show no signs of weapons potential. In fact, all evidence suggests. Evidence they've carefully crafted. Kralthax interrupted. No species evolves such capabilities without defensive intent. The time for debate is over. We must act to preserve galactic stability. First Speaker Zixtal raised a hand for silence, his internal conflict visible. My daughter spoke to me this morning about her meditation practice. She said she finally understands what humans mean by inner peace. How do we reconcile this with our security concerns? The chamber's quantum feeds suddenly displayed new data. Thousands of council citizens were spontaneously gathering at meditation centers across the galaxy, drawn by the promise of the humans' teachings. Parents brought their children, scientists brought their colleagues, and even some military personnel attended sessions between duties. As the council debated humanity's fate, their own civilization was being transformed not by weapons or warfare, but by the simple act of learning to breathe mindfully. The crisis had reached its tipping point, though not in the way anyone had expected. In orbit around Earth, the hidden fleet awaited final authorization, while below, humanity continued sharing its gift of inner peace, unaware that their greatest contribution to galactic civilization had been misinterpreted as their deadliest weapon. Junior observer Techley raced through the crystalline corridors of the council archives, his discovery burning in his mind. Behind him, the vast data crystals hummed with the accumulated knowledge of 10,000 civilizations, but it was a simple human medical text that had finally illuminated the truth. Senior researcher Vexna, he burst into her laboratory, his usual protocol forgotten. You must see this immediately. We fundamentally misunderstood the human's biological control abilities. Vexna's scales shifted from concentration to curiosity as she studied Techley's data stream. The young observer had correlated historical records of human meditation practices with their evolutionary development, revealing a pattern that contradicted every security assessment. This isn't a weapon, Techley explained, his voice trembling with excitement. It's an adaptation for healing and growth. Look at the earliest records. These techniques developed in peaceful monasteries, healing temples, places of learning. On her research screens, centuries of human history unfolded. Ancient meditation masters teaching breath control for inner peace. Modern medical studies showing reduced stress and improved health outcomes. Astronaut training programs using these techniques to maintain psychological balance in space. The endorphin released during meditation, Vexna murmured, her scales shifting to the deep blue of revelation. We interpreted it as preparation for terminal defense, but it's actually a reward mechanism, Techley finished. Their bodies evolved to encourage these practices because they promote health and cognitive development. The supposed kill switch is actually a sophisticated system for self-regulation and healing. In the council chamber above, Security Chief Kralthax was delivering his final briefing before the planned intervention. The fleet stands ready. We must act before the human influence spreads further. Vexna and Techley burst into the chamber, breaking every protocol of formal council proceedings. Stop. Vexna's scales pulsed with urgent patterns. Honored Council, we've discovered critical new information about the human's abilities. The chamber's quantum displays filled with their findings as Techley explained the truth. Medical data, historical records, and cultural analyses painted a picture not of a species evolved for war, but one that had developed extraordinary tools for peace and personal growth. Consider the evidence, Vexna urged. If this were truly a defense mechanism, why would its practice generate universal positive outcomes? Why would it enhance cognitive function and emotional stability across species boundaries? First, Speaker Zixtal studied the data, remembering his daughter's transformed demeanor after her meditation sessions. These techniques, he ventured, they're not preparation for mass termination. Quite the opposite, Techley replied. They're preparation for life, for better, more conscious living. The humans developed these abilities not to end life, but to enhance it. The council chamber erupted in discussion as centuries of assumptions unraveled. Security Chief Kralthak's mandibles worked silently as he processed the implications. His entire threat assessment had been based on a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature. Ambassador Torres, summoned to the chamber, listened in amazement as the council explained their previous interpretation of human meditation. "You thought we were teaching people to." She couldn't even finish the sentence. "No wonder you've been so concerned about our meditation centers. A species that evolves the ability to consciously regulate its autonomic functions," Vexna explained to the chamber, her scales now shimmering with excitement. "We assumed it must be for defense. We never considered it might be for advancement, for the pursuit of peace and understanding." As the council debated this revelation, reports streamed in from across the galaxy. The meditation centers they had feared were transforming communities, reducing conflict, enhancing learning, and bridging cultural divides. What they had seen as a spreading threat was actually the galaxy's greatest hope for unity. First Speaker Zixtol raised his hands for silence, his decision made. "Send word to the fleet. Stand down from attack positions. We have much to learn from our human friends, beginning with how to quiet our fears and listen to wisdom wherever it may be found." One solar cycle after the crisis, the crystalline spires of the newly established Galactic Institute of Consciousness Studies rose from the terraformed plains of Mars. Its meditation gardens housed beings from across the galaxy, all seeking to understand the profound connection between mind and body that humans had cultivated for millennia. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the Institute's inauguration ceremony, sharing the platform with First Speaker Zixtol and Senior Researcher Vexna. Below them, an audience of multiple species sat in perfect meditation posture, their vital signs displaying the harmonious patterns that had once caused such alarm. "When we first developed these techniques," Sarah addressed the gathering, "we never imagined they would become the foundation for interstellar understanding. We simply sought to know ourselves better, to find peace within our own minds and bodies." Vexna's scales shifted through patterns of academic enthusiasm as she activated the main display. "The human gift for physiological self-regulation has revolutionized our understanding of consciousness itself. What we once feared as a weapon has become our greatest tool for advancement." In the Institute's research wing, Junior Observer Techley, now promoted to lead researcher of comparative consciousness studies, worked alongside human scientists. Their latest project mapped the neurological changes meditation produced across different species, revealing universal patterns that transcended biological differences. "The implications are extraordinary," he explained to a group of visiting council members. "These techniques don't just help individuals, they're reshaping the very fabric of galactic society." Conflict resolution centers using human meditation practices report a 90% success rate. Security Chief Kralthak, who had once advocated for military intervention, now required all security forces to complete basic meditation training. "A clear mind makes better decisions," he told his officers, mandibles clicking in what had become his version of a contemplative smile. "The humans taught us that strength comes in many forms." The quantum feeds displayed scenes from across council space. Regelian traders practicing Tai Chi between negotiations, Centaurian students using breathing techniques to enhance their studies, and mixed species groups gathering for daily meditation sessions in every major spaceport. Ambassador Torres, watching the proceedings from Earth's embassy, reflected on how close they had come to catastrophe. "Sometimes the greatest mysteries," she noted to her staff, "are not in the stars above, but in the consciousness within." First Speaker Zixtol's daughter had become one of the Institute's star pupils, her mastery of human techniques advancing understanding of how different species could adapt these practices. "We nearly destroyed something beautiful because we could not imagine it," Zixtol admitted during his address. "The humans showed us that evolution can favor peace as much as defense." In the Institute's meditation hall, beings of all species gathered for the daily group practice. their vital signs synchronized not in preparation for termination, but in celebration of life and consciousness. The patterns that had once triggered security alerts now drew researchers from across the galaxy, eager to understand this profound example of universal harmony. The greatest power, Dr. Chen told her advanced students, is not the ability to end life, but the wisdom to embrace and enhance it. Every breath becomes a bridge between species, every moment of mindfulness a step toward universal understanding. As the twin suns set over the Martian meditation gardens, the Institute's quantum cores hummed with accumulated data from countless sessions. Each recording, each analysis, each breakthrough added to the growing understanding of consciousness across species barriers. The crisis that had nearly led to war had transformed into a renaissance of interstellar cooperation and growth. In the observation post where the story began, a new generation of observers monitored humanity's continuing influence on galactic society. They no longer watched for signs of weapons or defenses, but studied instead the endless ways that human consciousness practices adapted and evolved to benefit all species. The misunderstanding that had brought the galaxy to the brink of conflict had become the catalyst for its greatest advancement. Humanity's gift, once feared as a deadly switch, had instead turned on the light of understanding across the cosmos,